Welcome to the Global Home Inspector School Training Program Overview. This is an informational video on how to train to become a home inspector in the great state of Missouri. I am Matt Fletcher on the left there. That's me. I'm a former high school construction teacher and turned home inspector. And I've been a home inspector for over 26 years now. And a few years ago, I started my own Home Inspectors Association and training courses. And this is my pitch to get you to sign up with our training program and not our competitors. So hopefully it works. Since you're already interested in becoming a home inspector, let's look at some of the benefits of the home inspection business. There is a low barrier to entry compared to many other trades. So like electricians or plumbers or architects, you don't have to train for years to get a license. Becoming a home inspector takes far less time. In Missouri, there is no home inspector law for licensing as of June of 2026. I just checked. Licensing is in some states, but not in others. Also, where we're at in Michigan here, we don't have a licensing law yet. I don't know if we ever will, but we don't have a licensing law here either, just like Missouri. There's a low cost to get started in the business. So if you've already been in the trades, maybe you have a pickup truck or a van, some ladders, some tools, computer that you keep your books on or whatever. Those are some of the biggest expenses for becoming a home inspector. You'd also need, plug tester, moisture meter. A lot of guys buy drones now. Maybe a sewer camera if you wanted to get into that. You can get into a good sewer camera now for about $500. A decent one, I should say. I just bought one. Our students complete this course in about 30 days. There's about 30 lessons. I haven't counted them lately, but there's about 30 lessons. And each lesson is about an hour, hour and a half long to read through it, watch the videos and things. And then there's a test at the end. When we give you an hour to take the test, you may be able to go through it much faster than an hour, but we give you an hour. So just figure, 2.5 hours on each lesson. Earning potential. Okay, so as long as people are buying and selling homes, you'll always have work. On average, people live in a house about 6.5 years. Google it if you don't believe me. I thought that was short too. Inspection work cannot be offshored. That's huge. And inspection work cannot be replaced with AI. Somebody's got to crawl on that crawl space or that attic or whatever. Most home inspectors report between making $60,000 and $100,000 a year. That seems about right to me. If you're in a big metro area where there's, a lot of wealthy neighborhoods and things, you might make more. And if you're in a more rural area, you might make less. It depends how much you want to work as well. Flexible schedule. This is one of the things I liked about it. Most home inspectors are self-employed, giving them control over how many hours they want to work, the number of inspections they want to do a year, when and where they take vacations, and whether they do it part or full time. I've done it both part and full time. When I was teaching construction at the high school, I did it part time, and for whatever reason, they cut that program and laid us all off, and I started doing it full time. And still to this day, I enjoy my time off where I can go up into northern Michigan and go steelhead fishing or walleye fishing or whatever, and then come back and start doing inspections again. So it's very flexible that way. Okay, so like I said, I used to be a high school construction teacher. I actually have a master's degree in teaching and additional certification in the state of Michigan to teach construction trades. And in my class, my students and I built a real house. So the school district owned a subdivision, right? They owned the property. And we would have hired out the basement be dug and the foundation to be poured by, foundation company. And that's what's going on here. They're pouring the footings you can see there. That's the concrete coming out of the chute. And that's my students there watching. So we didn't do everything on the houses we built, but if we didn't do it, we went out there and watched. And some of the stuff we participated in, along with a licensed plumber, electrician, or roofer, or whatever it was. So in our lessons, not only will you learn how to inspect the building, you're going to learn how one is put together because I use a lot of these pictures that I took when I was teaching to teach home inspection. Here's another picture. So this is now the basement walls have been poured. The footing was poured, and then they let that set up and dry a bit. Then they set the forms on top of the footings for these are poured concrete walls. And you can see the trenches have been dug for the sump pump lines, the weeping tiles that go underneath the basement floor, which you may not have even known were there. That's called a bleeder right there. So that's a little plastic tube that goes through the footing and brings the water in from outside the foundation into the basement, underneath the basement floor, and it goes over to the sump pump and gets pumped out. You may not have known that. So that's why I use these pictures. And this is the sanitary line for the sewer where you flush the toilet. So that's a separate system that does not connect to the rainwater, the groundwater system. Let's see here. Here we are again, students framing the flooring system. So you'll learn about, this is that good Advantech 3/4 inch tongue and groove plywood that we use for the floor. We used really good materials on our house, and we did things painstakingly correct because it was kids building the house, high school kids. So people were extra extra paranoid, I guess, about buying a house that was built by high school kids. So, we did things like they do on this old house. It was everything was done perfectly, or we tore it out and we did it again. Okay, so we did the framing, all the framing on the house. We framed the floor, we framed the walls, we framed the roof, we set the trusses, we installed the windows, the doors. We helped a licensed plumber and electrician do the electrical and the plumbing work and the HVAC work. So we learned about that. And, the contractor would come out and talk to the students about the trades, and then we'd help him do his stuff there. In fact, we did most of the work while he watched and supervised. We also did all the interior trim work, the doors, hung the doors, put the baseboard on, things like that. We hung the drywall, we did the insulation. So we did about 90% of it, I would say. We teach you why construction practices have changed over the years, why moisture barrier is behind this slab on this front porch that's being poured. So just to let you know what's going on here, concrete comes down this chute. That's the concrete there. These are some students over here watching. This is the OSB plywood sheathing for the house. And there's a moisture barrier that comes up on the wall there to protect the wall from the moisture from the concrete, not only when it's wet, but after it's dry. I'll show you what I mean. So this is a rim joist, right? This is a rim joist of a house, goes around the outside perimeter, and this is the concrete slab porch that was poured up against it, and there was no moisture barrier, and it rotted it out. So this is all that's left of the rim joist between these two floor joists here, and this bay, we call it. A couple, what is there, 5 holes there? That's probably powder post beetles. So water got in between the house, this rim joist, and this concrete slab, and rotted out the rim joist. And it also looks like it got in the subfloor up here too. So it could be from the moisture getting in that where there's no moisture barrier and there's a crack between the little joint between the house and the concrete slab, or the threshold from the door. There's probably a door above here, right? Because there's a porch. Yeah, the threshold from the door can leak water too. So we teach you things like this in our lessons. We teach you why things are done a certain way and what to look for. So this picture was taken from in a crawl space, but you could also see this from a basement. If the basement isn't finished and has a drywall ceiling, you could spot this. We include hundreds of inspection pictures and dozens of videos in our lessons. We teach you what to look for, like I said. So this is a crawl space. I'm going to teach you about the problem areas in this video. This is a crawl space entrance with a downspout depositing water just a few inches away. And you can't tell from this picture, but there's negative grade here. The dirt slants toward the house instead of away from the house. So when water comes out this downspout, it just turns and goes right in the crawl space. And here's what it does in the crawl space. This is a crawl space. So they did some renovation work on this house, and they ripped out the bathroom above, and they tore out the floor, and they let all the debris fall into the crawl space, and they left it laying there, the wood debris, and it's now laying on the wet ground because there's no vapor barrier. There's no visqueen here that's, properly installed and taped at the seams and all that. So the wood's sitting right on that wet ground, all that water's pouring in here, and it starts to rot. And bugs are attracted to that rotting wood and they come to eat it. And then while they're there, they start eating the rest of the house too. So this is a defect for your inspection report. The debris is a defect. The fact that the water's dumping right next to the entryway and negative grade is a defect. No vapor barrier on the ground is a defect. You can see wires hanging down here. That's a defect. Cable TV wire over here, I would write that up as a defect as well. So we show you pictures like this and then tell you what's a defect and what you should write in your report. Pretty straightforward. So I'm not your only instructor, although I am highly qualified. This is Dr. Joe Vaglica here. So Joe's teaching a class here. This is the construction lab at Macomb Community College, and this is where I met Joe actually. And I took 3 or 4 of his classes, and I got to know him a little bit. We started talking, and we're like, hey, we should go do some inspection work together. Because Joe's not a full-time teacher, he just teaches part-time. He owns Gateway Engineering in Shelby Township, and he does when home inspectors refer a structural engineer, he's the guy that would come out. He's a structural engineer. So Joe has, we call him Dr. Joe Vaglica because he has a PhD in engineering, and he's a PE, professional engineer. PE stands for professional engineer. So Joe, like I said, is taught at Macomb Community College where I met him. He's taught at the University of Detroit and Wayne State University. He's actually the chair of the construction management program at Wayne State University. He helped start the program. So Joe isn't just a professor that only teaches. He also owns Gateway Engineering, like I said. It's in Shelby Township. Um, so this is a subdivision that Joe designed and built. So you can see houses being built in the background. So this was vacant land when Joe got a hold of it. And this is the road Joe designed and built. And he designed the sewage system and the drainage for the water underneath. He did all that. So Joe's not just a guy that sits in the classroom. He's also out there doing construction um, as well as teaching it like I do. So this is a commercial building we inspected, and we take pictures um, and write reports about the inspection we did. And then we take these same pictures and we use them to teach our lessons. So not only do you receive home inspection training, you also get commercial inspection training as well. So we cover pretty much small and medium-sized commercial buildings. We may add some bigger stuff later, but 99% of the time, this is the type of commercial inspection a home inspector is going to get. Okay. I've been doing this a long time, and this is 99% of your work right here. Buildings like this. Realtors that get to know you will say, hey, you did a home inspection for us. Do you do commercial? So when you do our program, you will have a familiarity with how to do a commercial inspection. It's a bit different, but not terribly different from inspecting homes. And we include this in our curriculum for free. There's no extra charge. Now, other organizations charge, I've read, prices of $1,500 up to $4,000 for commercial inspection training, and some of them go into some ridiculous stuff that you're never going to run into, like inspecting an airport. Okay, you're not going to get an airport job. Okay, so I'll just be honest with you. If you team up with an engineering company and they've got a PE on staff, you might get an airport job, but 99% of the time, no. So this is the roof of that same building. So we have lessons on inspecting the entire commercial building. We have another lesson on roofs and use pictures like this and videos to teach those lessons. We have a lesson on parking lots and then another lesson on handicap bathrooms, ADA bathrooms. So you can see you got some issues here. See these sinkholes and there's water there. So the roof leaked there a little bit and then it started to rot out the roofing material underneath the substrate, whether it be corrugated metal or plywood or whatever it is. It's starting to either rust out or rot and it's starting to cave in there a little bit. So we teach you how to spot issues like that and what to write in your reports about these issues. This is a furnace and air conditioning unit over here. It's a combo unit, so the furnace and air conditioning condenser are both inside there. So we teach you about that. These are big exhaust events for fans because this is a restaurant and the kitchen area has these big exhaust fans. So we'll teach you about that as well. If the power's on in a building like that, you want to turn these exhaust fans on before you go up on the roof. You know, every restaurant I've ever inspected, it was always the same story. The guy buying it, it was always a guy. Now, I have one woman, take that back, one woman. They know more about the equipment than you do. Okay. They've used it, they've been cooks, they've been chefs, they've owned restaurants for many years, and they will know more about the equipment than you do. So I'll just tell you that up front. So they can help you inspect it. Like I said, there's a separate lesson on how to inspect parking lots. So some of the things featured in parking lots is we go over the surface itself, like see some cracking over here. Write that up in your report. Drainage is an issue in parking lots. You're supposed to have drainage, but not all of them do. Directional arrows, parking stripes for parking, uh, curbs, those parking curbs. They call them bumper curbs sometimes in some areas. We'll talk about those. These are called bollards over here. These are basically metal tubes filled with concrete to protect the gas meter. Those are not typically required in residential, but they're something you see a lot of in commercial property inspections. So we teach you what stuff is called and what it's there for. Here's that ADA bathroom I mentioned. So ADA bathrooms have certain features. You got to have a 36-inch wide door. Last time I checked, you got to have a 60-inch turning radius for a wheelchair in the center. Handicap bars. The sink's got to be a certain height so you can get a wheelchair under it. Things like that. You'll learn all about that. Drinking fountains is another one for handicapped folks. So sewer scopes have become a pretty standard part of a home and commercial building inspections. Sewer scope inspections can easily add $15,000 to an inspector's yearly income. So you can get into a decent camera, like I said, for about 500 bucks now. I used to have a rigid, which I paid $3,600 for, and now they're 5,000. A few years later. So, and it broke for the third time, and I was like, oh my God. So I started looking around. I read some reviews about this Vevor camera, Vevor. I was like, it's 165 feet. It's $500. It takes pictures, makes recordings. You can make video with them. That's all you need. That's all a typical home inspector needs. So I bought one for 500 bucks, and it came in the mail in a few days, and I've used it 4 or 5 times now, and I'm pretty happy with it. So, for $500 over $5,000 rigid camera, I'm going with the cheaper one. And if it lasts me a year, I'd be happy. And then if it breaks, I'll just buy a new one because it costs 500 bucks to get my rigid camera fixed. And it seems like it breaks more often now than it did before. So we teach you things like that in our lessons. How much money you can make with one and how much the investment of the equipment is. We charge $150 for a sewer scope here in the Detroit area with a home inspection or building inspection. And if it's separate, it's at least 250, maybe 350, depending on how far we have to drive. So those cameras pay for themselves really quickly. So you don't have to spend a ton of money to get in the camera business. And realtors will refer you business just because you have that camera. They know you have that camera, like, oh yeah, I know a guy with a camera. He can do it for you. So other organizations charge about $500. For Suroscope training, again, we include ours for free. It's included in the price of the course. I'm checking my notes here. So this is a good deal. You got two very good, highly qualified instructors that know what they're talking about. And we literally have the best price. We include commercial inspections, which I'm telling you will cover 99% of what a home inspector is going to encounter in the commercial inspection business, and sewer scopes. There is no better deal than that, all for one price, one low price. So this is an actual picture taken with my sewer camera. So this is the kind of thing we teach you in the sewer scope lesson. So these are roots. Okay, so this is the pipe. This is the wall of the pipe. This red stuff. It's a rusty cast iron pipe. And there's joints in this pipe. And back in the day when they installed this, they didn't seal the joints. It was kind of a tongue and groove system with both the clay and these metal pipes. I've seen ones that have tongue and groove system, and I've seen ones that had rubber boots at the joints. So this one had a bad joint. It doesn't matter how it was connected together. The joint is bad, and roots have grown in at that joint. And this is real common, real typical. So it's kind of like a curtain or wall of roots at that joint. And the plumber comes over, your sewer starts to back up, and the plumber comes over, or the snake out guy. He's not necessarily a plumber, and they snake it out, and they use a small head cutter to poke through those roots because they're afraid of getting their sewer camera, not their camera, their snake stuck in the sewer. So they always go with the smaller head cutter, and it just pokes a hole in there. And then, 6 months, 8 months, a year later, the roots grow back, and then it's plugged up again. They come and snake it out again. So we'll teach you about things like that. It is far better to hydrojet something like this out. So it's basically power washing a sewer line, and it will take 99% of these roots out of here. So you're going to learn about that with our lessons as well. So for instance, in our sewer scope lesson, there's about 8,000 words of text. Um, there's 13 videos and dozens of pictures, and then a quiz at the end. And when you complete the quiz and pass, you get your certificate that says you know how to do sewer scopes. Let's take a look at our school a little bit more on our website. So we're a licensed post-secondary proprietary school in the state of Michigan. And this is our inspection training website, which you may have seen already. It's globalinspectionschool.com, globalinspectionschool.com, because we train people all over the globe. Anybody that can read English can take our courses. Um, on the left side is Enroll Now button. So if you want to go ahead and enroll, you just click on that and put in your credit card information. And on the right, once you get access, after you pay, is a Student Access button. There's a drop-down menu, My Courses, Membership Details, Log Out. So that's how you get into the lessons. This is a little sample of what the lessons look like. The first one is Course Introduction. That's the very first lesson. So it tells you what to expect. So it says things like important points are bolded. Okay, so if you see something that's bolded in a lesson, you're very likely going to be tested on that. So I would write it down. And we repeat things too. If important points are repeated, because we're here to teach you, not trick you. Um, like I said, Joe and I are both teachers, and when you become a teacher and you go to your teacher training, they teach you, look, a student needs 3 exposures to a subject before it even begins to sink in. So one exposure would be the teacher lecturing about it in front of the class. Okay, so that's 1. Then they show you some pictures and some videos. That's 2. 3 would be an essay that you have to write about what you just learned about. So that would be 3. So that's the sort of thing we do. So after at least 3 exposures, maybe 4 or 5, you'll start to remember things like that. And things overlap in our lessons too. So we talk a lot about water. Water's the most destructive thing that a home inspector is likely to run into on an inspection. It's all about the water. So we repeat water issues in a lot of our lessons. If a home inspector ever gets sued, it's 80% chance it's going to be about a water issue. So after the introduction, all the lessons are pretty much in alphabetical order. I think the commercial lessons at the end are in alphabetical order, but it basically goes alphabetical at the top. So air conditioning, attic, basement, bathroom, bedrooms, like that. And you can do them in any order you want, but they're in alphabetical order. So this is a sample of one of the test questions, commercial roof inspections quiz. So there's true and false, there's multiple choice, and there's essay questions. And then there's something called hotspots too. So we'll take a look at that. Oh, these are the hotspots. So this is the sump pump in case you don't recognize it. This is the main pump here. This is a water siphon backup pump. That's a Guardian brand. I have the same pump in my house. So you're supposed to know what these different parts are. So this is like a review toward the end. So it'd be a fourth exposure, right? If you heard about it, you read about it, you watch videos about it, and then you get kind of a short quiz here. So the hot spots, you're supposed to know this is the electrical cord, this is the float, this is the pit itself, the pit wall, this is a backup pump, that's a backflow preventer, that's the water supply coming into the water siphon backup pump. You'll learn about how that works. So hot spots, I like the hot spots. It's a good way to quiz yourself just before you do the quiz. So, like I said, there's two essay questions, and this is one of them. So the first essay question is really just a gimme. It's an extra credit question. So it says, what'd you think of the lesson? Uh, do you have any suggestions on how we could improve it? And if you have a good idea, we'll probably use it to improve our lessons. So that's just a gimme. If you don't have any suggestions, just put that down and you'll still get credit. You could say, I don't have any suggestions. I thought the lesson was fine the way it is. That's good enough. And then the second essay question is a bit tougher. So this one was about roofs. So let's see. This was worth 10 points, and he got all 10 points you see here. So the question, if you can't read it, says, using the information in this lesson, write a few paragraphs on how you would go about inspecting a roof. Explain what types of things you would be looking for. You could also make a checklist of part of your answer. So all you got to do is repeat back to us what we told you in the lesson, what we told you in text, what we said in the videos, and what we showed you in the pictures. So you should do fine. Don't. And the reason we do this is because so many inspectors came out of the trades and they haven't written anything since they were in high school, except maybe an invoice. So um, this is just to get some writing practice. You need this writing practice, you guys. You really need this a lot. If you go on the inspector chat boards on Facebook, you'll see a lot of guys saying, "Oh, what should I say about this? What should I say about that?" Well, this is your practice here. So this guy gave a really good answer. He said, I would turn on any ventilation that was venting to the roof. You know why I said that? Because we told him to do that in the lesson. It says, if there's a bathroom fan or a dryer that vents through the roof, like some of them do, turn those on before you go up there and put your hand in front of them and make sure air is coming out so they're not plugged up somewhere or disconnected somewhere inside the wall or the attic. So that's why he said that. Then he says he would take a bunch of pictures from different angles. We tell him to do that. I would inspect the surface of the asphalt shingles. And then he goes through the whole. We give him basically a script to go through for the roof, and he just repeated the script back to us. So that's why he got a 10. Okay, listen, you guys. The road to construction. Oh, the road to success is always under construction. I said that backwards. That's true. So I was a judge at a shed building contest, and this school showed up at the contest showing wearing these T-shirts, and I was like, oh, that is so cool. I'm gonna get some T-shirts made like that. So that is true. So if you've been in the trades, whether you're a roofer, or a tile setter, or electrician, or HVAC, or whatever it is, and you want to try something different and go in the home inspection business, You got to up your skills. So you need a little bit of training. It's not tough. It doesn't take years. It should take you about a month to finish our program. If you do 2 lessons a day, you could do it in 2 weeks. But you got to up your skills, get some training. The road to success is always under construction. Our website, in case I didn't mention it, is at globalinspectionschool.com. You can go there and sign up if you want. Just check out the website. All right, let's do our review and wrap it up. Review. Um, you get a complete home inspection course from the foundation to the roof, okay? You get more lessons on small and medium-sized commercial inspection buildings. Let me say that again. Small and medium-sized commercial inspection training. So like I said, there's lessons on inspecting the whole building, ones that we did. We take the pictures and go, okay, look, here's what we saw, here's what happened, here's what we wrote. Then there's separate lessons on the ADA bathrooms, flat roofs, which are a big deal. That's the biggest difference, in my opinion, between a house and a commercial building, that flat roof, which is almost always a problem here in the Detroit area. Also get sewer scope training. You get 2 highly qualified instructors, help you as much as we possibly can. We want you to succeed. You get all that for $450. There's no better deal on the web than that, I'm telling you. Look around, shop around, and you'll see that I'm telling you the truth. That's our logo, Global Inspector Certification Association. That's our phone number. Call that number. I'll probably answer. If you don't want to call, if you think I'm going to try and put the hard sell on you, I'm not going to. If you want to talk to me, I'll talk to you. If you want to text me, you can text me. If you don't want to do that, you can email us. We use Gmail because it allows us to send, we're still doing inspections and allows us to send very big files with lots of pictures and texts and write-ups and things like that. So our email address is globalinspectionschool@gmail.com. globalinspectionschool@gmail.com. So that's it, guys. We hope to have you as a student, and you'll succeed. You just do what we tell you to do, and you will succeed at this. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.